So emptiness, which is the most, the precious, the ultra precious, the thing in this universe, that we not be separate from this, not only in this life, in the future lifetimes. Let us say this wholeheartedly 3 times, along with all the sentient beings and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas with us. And you're making this request to the Buddha Shakyamuni, and Buddha Shakyamuni so compassionately reassured that yes, I will be your guidance, I'll be your guide throughout your future lives. Okay, let's say this 3 times. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by the compassionate Buddha and be able to uphold the true precious Bodhicittas even at the cost of my life. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by the compassionate Buddha and be able to uphold the true precious Bodhicittas even at the cost of my life. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by the compassionate Buddha and be able to uphold the true precious Bodhicittas even at the cost of my life. Okay. Page 30, and page 41. And in order that in the next lives, once having met with the teaching on Bodhicitta wisdom and emptiness, that you feel a tremendous connection. You just feel like not leaving it. You just feel like dedicating everything, investing everything on this practice. We have to make this practice linked with the joy in this life. The more you link it profusely, very strongly, in the next life, you meet with this teaching, automatically you feel like as though like you come home, and then you don't want to leave it. You want to go through it very intensely. So this is how then the journey can be very swift. Gade gade para gade para, some of the Buddhists so swiftly. So these are all the incredible skillful means by which to connect yourself, by which to not only, for example, say many people, they're connected with Dharma in this life, but they are not so enthusiastic. They're not so enthusiastic. So okay, in fact, the Buddha said almost 99% of the Tibetans are connected with Dharma. And Chinese, many millions of Chinese, they were born as a Buddhist. But how many of them are actually feeling joy in this Dharma and investing time? What are you doing? Right? Going for retreat and so forth is so less. So therefore, this is because they met with the Dharma, but they don't find the joy. When you find the joy, who will not want to do it? Right? So therefore, this is what we're doing here is a very skillful way by which the next time you meet, not only meet, you will just strongly delve into it. Okay, with this, for this matter, page 41, stanza 25. In order to further increase it from now on, those with discernment who have loosened the seeds and awakened the mind in this way should highly praise it in the following manner. Today my life is borne fruit, having well obtained this human existence, I've been born in the family of the Buddha, and now I'm one of Buddha's children. Thus whatever actions I do from now on must be in accord with the family. Never shall I disgrace or pollute this noble and unsullied race. Just like a blind man discovering a jewel in a heap of rubbish, likewise by some coincidence an awakened mind has been born within me. It is the supreme ambrosia that overcomes the sovereignty of death. It is the inexhaustible treasure that eliminates all poverty in the world. It is the supreme medicine that quells the world's disease. It is the tree that shelters all beings wandering entirely on the path of conditioned existence. It is the universal bridge that leads to freedom from unhappy states of birth. It is the dawning moon of the mind that dispels the torment of disturbing conceptions. It is the great sun that finally removes the misty ignorance of the world. It is the quintessence of butter from the churning of the milk of Dharma. For all those guests traveling on the path of conditioned existence who wish to experience the bounties of happiness, this will satisfy them with joy and actually place them in the supreme bliss. Today, in the presence of all the protectors and by the world to be guests at the festival of temporary and ultimate delight, may gods, demigods, and all be joyful. Okay. So from yesterday, from the last few days, we have not been reading these stanzas. Page 36. These stanzas are extremely important, and why we did not read this is because we were not introduced to emptiness till yesterday morning. So now that we are introduced to emptiness a little bit, so this stanza down, it is, so the bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, to what extent is your bodhicitta? To what extent your bodhicitta will take you towards, from the gati to the second gati to the paragati and so forth. It is determined by the intensity of compassion. Intensive compassion. Compassion, there are various kinds and various subtleties. So what is seen here is the compassion, which is the most profound version, the subtle version. For example, say, if you see somebody who is hungry, or who is, who met an accident, and you feel so compassionate, you run into tears, and people will think that, of course, this is very intense compassion. Of course, I would say it is intense compassion, but it may not necessarily be profound compassion. It is intense, but not necessarily profound. What do you mean by profound? Profound is determined by, say, when you see the other person stricken with the tragedy, with a severe tragedy, then the likelihood for the majority of people, compassion will grow. Majority of people, compassion arises when you see a tragic situation in somebody else. Whereas if the other person is quite successful, instead of compassion, jealousy may arise. Which means your other compassion is shallow, right? And whereas the very profound compassion is, no matter what, say the other person is stricken with not only the evident suffering but also the suffering change, which ordinary people consider as happiness. So that instead of jealousy, one will have compassion. And then the pervasive condition suffering, you feel very compassionate seeing this. So what is pervasive condition suffering? Suffering because of being under the control of this self-grasping ignorance, being under the control of contaminant karmas, afflictions, involuntary birth, all because of the self-grasping ignorance. So somebody who is having what the ordinary world considers very successful life, very rich, very powerful, and so forth. Instead of feeling compassion, we will feel jealous. But in actuality, other persons suffering terribly because other persons are still under the sway, under the control of self-grasping ignorance. Does not have any clue of what emptiness is. So as long as it is happening, then at the moment that person, what we consider as successful, it is like going through a very pleasant dream. Pleasant dream is not created by the person, right? The person does not have the choice to choose this pleasant dream. It happens, and then this pleasant dream can anytime be followed by a nightmare dream. Right? So dreams, you don't have the choice. You don't have the freedom to choose what you're going to have the dream tonight. So sometimes you'll have pleasant dreams, sometimes you'll have a nightmare dream. After all these dreams are under the deception, deception of the ignorance, making you to believe that this dream is true. So making you to believe that this dream is true, then the dream affects you. Sickness, aging, death, fear, anxiety, all these things happen. So it is all because of failing to see the dream as dream. Likewise, failing to see things as see things which are subjectively real as subjectively real. Instead of seeing them as objectively real, we're creating a dream. Self-grasping ignorance. With this, then the objects will affect you. Your mind will be affected. Then the fear, anxiety, stress, all these things arise. Okay, now the very profound compassion is compassion which is not only feeling compassionate when you see somebody inflicted with the suffering, but also with the success, mundane success, and with the perverse condition suffering. So when you see that the beings are suffering because of the self-grasping ignorance, then the compassion becomes so intense. So the stanzas that we are reading here, these are the stanzas which His Holiness the Dalai Lama advised, particularly precisely advised me in 2013. His Holiness, one early morning, his secretary called me up to when His Holiness was in Delhi, called me up in the hotel there, early morning, like 8 o'clock. And then I was there, and then His Holiness gave me a list of, the many things like the advice, whatever guidance and so forth. And then one part of which is that whenever Tibet organizes programs, big programs, why not, you make them take the aspiration of Bodhisattva vow. And then as a part of this, you also advise me to make sure that these stanzas are included from Bodhisattva Shantidevas text. So this is all taken from Bodhisattva Shantidevas chapter 9, wisdom chapter. Right? Okay. So this is to tell us, or to make us invoke the very profound compassion. Compassion directed towards the beings, for they being under the sway of the dream, under the control of the dream created by the self-grasping ignorance. Dream, seeing things as so real and on their basis, then the dream affecting them. In what way? In, say, killing each other, fighting with each other, bullying each other, deceiving each other, then anger, then fear, right? And then going to the lower realms, higher realms, lower realms, higher realms. We are all affected by this dream. So, then at the end, Bodhisattva Shantideva was explaining how the beings are suffering because of the self-grasping ignorance. And then in the end, he made the prayer that with the merit that I've accumulated, may I be able to show this light of wake the sentient beings up, wake up the sentient beings by showing them the light of the wisdom of emptiness. Okay, this is what Bodhisattva Shantideva did, and we will follow his footsteps. Okay, let's recite these. Therefore, sentient beings resemble dreams. Upon analysis, they are like pendant trees, whether they are released or not from sorrow. Ultimately, there is no difference. What is there to gain and what is there to lose with things that are empty of true existence in this way? Who is there to pay me respect and who is there to abuse me? From what a pleasure and pain are derived? What is there to be happy or unhappy about? When I search for the ultimate nature, who is there to crave and what is there to crave for? Upon analysis, this world of living beings is found to have no true existence. Therefore, who can die here? What is there to come and what has been? Who are friends and who are relatives? O you who are investigating reality, please recognize, as I've done, that all is just like space. Those who wish to be happy are greatly disturbed by causes for conflict and overjoyed by the causes for pleasure. Not finding happiness, they suffer, and in order to find it, they exert themselves. They argue with others, cut and stab one another. With many wrong deeds, they live in a state of great hardship. Even though they repeatedly come to happy existences and experience much pleasure there, upon dying they fall for a long time into the unbearable suffering of lower realms. Within conditioned existence, the chasms of suffering are many, and the liberating comprehension of ultimate truth is absent. Furthermore, the apprehension of true existence and the understanding of emptiness mutually contradict one another. Yet if while in conditioned existence I do not realize this ultimate truth, I shall continue to experience a limitless ocean of misery, unbearable and beyond analogy. Likewise, through not having realized emptiness, I have little strength for virtue, and my human life of leisure and endowment is indeed very short. Also, I strive hard to live long and avoid illness. I am concerned with hunger, rest and sleep. I am enjoyed by others and keep meaningless company with the childish. Therefore, this life swiftly passes with no meaning, and it is very hard to find the chance to investigate reality. In this state, where is there the means to reverse this beginningless habit of grasping into existence? Furthermore, devils are exerting themselves to cast us into vast unfortunate realms. They show us many mistaken paths, and it is hard to forsake and resolve doubts about the perfect way. It will be hard to find the leisure of a human life again, and extremely difficult to find the presence of the Buddha. It is hard to forsake this flood with its seven conceptions. Alas, sentient beings will continue to suffer. For indeed it is worth feeling sorrow for those that drift in the river of pain, who, although they experience great misery, are unaware of the suffering they go through. For example, some ascetics wash themselves again and again, and others repeatedly enter fire, but although they thereby otherwise suffer greatly, they pride themselves in being content. Similarly, those who mistake their suffering for joy and live as though there were no aging or death are first of all killed by the Lord of death and then experience the unbearable misery of falling into lower realms. When shall I be able to extinguish the pains of those tormented by the fires of suffering with the rain of my accumulated happiness that has sprung from the clouds of my merits? And by having it in the manner of not referring to true existence, respectfully gather the accumulation of merit, then by referring to the other will I be able to reveal emptiness to those who are wretched and sad. Okay, page 43, dedication. I dedicate the merit thus gathered towards the realization of the deeds and the prayers of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the three times, and to the upholding of the doctrine and scripture and insight. May I in all lives, through the force of this merit, never separate from the four wheels of the Mahayana vehicle, and accomplish all the stages of the path, renunciation, bodhicitta, from our two corrections, vast space that have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds wisdom is planted by ignorance. Tirtha Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhiswatyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhiswatyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhiswatyata. Okay, three prostrations.